ChatGPT just released their image model in an API, and this might be the biggest ever AI moment since ChatGPT released back in 2023. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create an app using this API and Windsurf without writing a single line of code. You must have seen these Ghibli images all around the internet. All of that was only possible through ChatGPT's app earlier, but now you can create that and even more using their API. And what that means is now anyone can create an app that generates images using that API. Hey, I'm Nimish, founder of Typesmart, and I've created more than 15 apps in the last 6 months, all using AI without writing a single line of code. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can make apps and money using this image generation API. This is the product that we would be creating in this video. This is an email banner builder. Let me show you how this works. When I go on get started, this redirects me to the sign in page of this app. Anyone can sign in or sign up. Once I sign in, then I'm redirected on this email banner builder. Over here, I can use any of the images of my product or even the logo. I can keep adding them here and they will show up in the use previous upload tab here. Then there is this prompt that this defines that what is the banner for, how much discount we want to show on the banner and every other detail. Then we can select the aspect ratio of this banner, and on the right are the generated banners. So we did this for a product called hostage tape. So over here you will see the banner shows the same typography and the design as they use on their own email banners. And at the end of this video, you would have a public URL of this product that you can share with people, gather feedback, or even put a paywall on. So with that, let's get started. The first thing is you can use this API within their own playground. So when you click on this button on the top, you would be redirected to this link. Over here, you can try a bunch of different prompts to see that what kind of prompt generation or images are you looking for. So for example, what I will do is I will attach one of these thumbnails of one of my videos. I would ask it to convert this thumbnail into a Ghibli style artwork, and it has already converted that image into a thumbnail. And over here, you will see that this matches how I look. Even the logo of Windsurf is accurate here, and everything else, even the text is precisely the same. The only difference is the output size, which you can also keep as landscape. So you can play around with playground to just see what is possible. Then we come on to the next step of actually creating an app. We are gonna keep it super simple. These are the only 3 steps that we would be doing. First is just figuring out what we want to build. Second is creating a PRD. PRD is basically a plan for your AI agent like Windsurf, or if you are using Cursor for creating this app. We would be generating this using O4 Mini, which is a reasoning model by OpenAI. And finally, we would be implementing this entire plan inside Windsurf. That would give us a working product. Greg Eisenberg just dropped a list of ideas that you can build around with this. You can actually steal all of these ideas right now. Let's pick up one of these ideas just for this video. Let's build out the first idea from the list, which is a visual email builder for e-commerce. What this idea does is you describe the product or the promotion, and it gives you 3 custom visuals for the email blocks, and you can plug and play them within that. So let me show you what that means. If I go on my email and let's say if I look for an email from one of the consumer or B2C apps, you will see that all of these have these banners. Based on what we just see with OpenAI's API, I think all of these images can be used via that. Right now, most of these companies use a designer for creating them. Let's build out an app that can generate these images that goes into these emailers. I will copy this idea from here and I will add this on our document. Let's refine this idea. Visual email builder for e-commerce, where you describe the product and promo and get 3 visual for email blocks. I will remove the rest of the segment right now because that is not required for an MVP. Let's also define the format of these images. So these would be landscape images. Now let's add rest of these steps for creating this PRD. Based on the above idea, let's create a PRD for a product that uses OpenAI's image gen API and creates banners for e-commerce emails. What we would want as input is basically a image of the product or the logo that they could want to be included in the image, and then a description of what they would want the image to look like. So I will mention over here, we will take brand logo or the image of the product as one of the inputs, along with the text description, how you would want the banner to look like. So the next step here would be I would be adding certain rules that work really well for me when I am creating any app using AI. So I've mentioned these 4 steps here. You can go through them, but what these basically does is it gets the most out of the reasoning model before we get into the implementations, so that Windsurf can just focus on building the files rather than thinking that what should be the decision it should be taking at a certain place or what is the right syntax. Then I would be mentioning the technical stack choices here. So we are using Open AI image gen model. Let's also grab the name for that model. The name is GPT image 1. I will just copy this and I will paste this here. We are using Next.js 14 for building the app, and then we are using OpenAI's image and model. And apart from this, we would be using Supabase majorly for database authentication and storage. We would need a place to store the images that we generate every time. And apart from that, we would also need a database to store the information of all the users that come on the app. So that is our entire tech stack. Let's start with the prompt. We would have to play around with the model to figure out what would be the right prompt for this product. So let's go to the images playground. Over here, I've added a prompt here. I've mentioned generate a banner for an email with the following design style. Over here, I will describe a design style. This would be something based on what a person would want within the product. Over here, I will use a sample design style right now. And then I have mentioned and use the attached product image in the banner as the main element. Since we are designing this for e-commerce companies, that's why we keep the product image at the center. Some companies might also want to use their logo in front of the product or somewhere on the side. So we will also keep an option for adding the logo of the product. So for generating this prompt based on our references, what I will do is I will select this prompts playground over here. I have opened this in new tab, and this new tab you will see that there are 3 major things over here. One is you can select the model that you want to use over here. You can select any model over here, 4.1 or any of the reasoning models, O3, O4 mini. You can define a system prompt over here, which is basically how you would want this AI to act. And on the right is basically the chat. Once you have defined what is the role of this AI gonna be, then you can just chat over here and you can directly send images and get the desired response. So what I will do is I will add a system message over here. I will add you are a prompt expert, generate a prompt customized for GPT image and model based on the request of the user. So I will do this, and then I will mention make sure to include the design type, aesthetics, primary colors used, and other details. And I will ask it to provide this information in JSON. Provide this info in JSON. So we have basically described how we would want our AI to act like for getting the design style of whatever banners we are trying to create. You can also optimize this prompt. So if you click on this top right here, you can just ask, let's say, optimize the prompt. Let's wait for a second. So it has refined the entire prompt. It has added steps and it has also defined the output format that we want out of this. Now this is good. What we will do next is we will go and find for some reference images. I will just go to my emails and I'm looking at emails from Hostage Tape. If you don't know what they do, basically they design products like mouth tapes or things that help people sleep better at night. You must have seen that Ashton video that was all over the internet. So enough about the product. Now, the kind of emailers that they create is that the email has one of their products in the center, and then they have some copy around it for. So I will just copy this banner from the top. I will just copy this and I will add this here. Similarly, I will capture a couple of more banners from here. This is another one of their banner. I will just copy this entire thing from here, and that is all. With this, so I just send out these images. Now, based on a system message, it would be generating a prompt that we can use for recreating these banners in our product. So we got this response. The design type is holiday promotional banners. The aesthetics are bold, high contrast, modern, festive. The primary colors are green, white, red, black. So based on the output, I think there are still so many more details that we would want to capture. For example, the kind of buttons they use and what is the font over here, then what kind of icons to use. All of these details would be important as well. So I will go back here and I will mention we also want to get the font. We also want to get button styles. We also want to know font, button styles, uh, hierarchy of text. By this, I mean that, which font, let's say the heading comes on top and then how much text is usually on the page, all of those details. Apart from this, I will also want some example headlines. So, examples of headlines, their font size, examples of body and their font size, so that the entire design can be recreated again. So I've added all those details. Let's try running this again. Let's paste this in the playground and let's send them. So now when I sent out these images, the kind of response that I got is more detailed. Over here, it also mentioned the aesthetics, the primary colors. It also mentions that it uses minimalistic product photography, typographic emphasis, and subtle themed background. Basically, everything that we requested for. So let's capture this entire thing from here. And once we have it, let's go back to our image playground. Over here, I will just remove the response that we added from the last time, and I will add the new design type. I will also mention, please note that the text is just for reference. And now the prompt is generate a banner for an email with the following design style. And then I will mention the text that we want to use. Please use the following text. For example, let's say if this banner is for Easter, then I would want to mention that Happy Easter sale, buy stocks before they run out. And I will also mention the amount of discount that we are providing, 70% off on mouth tapes. So let's use this. And apart from that, what I will do is I will also add a image of the product itself. I will go on Google and I will search for hostage tape. I will move over to images. I will open this image in new tab and let's capture this image from here. Another thing I will do is I will remove its background so that it does not interfere with our image. We can also automate this part, but right now we will do it manually because we want to keep MVP simple. So I will open up this image, and once I upload this here, it would remove the entire background. Let's download this and let's add this on our prompt. Let's attach the image and let's send this to see the kind of output that it generates for us. And if I look at the banner over here, this looks very much similar to the banners that we were seeing on the hostage tape website. Let's look at one of these reference banners here. If I go back to my emails and if I search for hostage tape again, and let me show you one of these banners. And if we look at one of these banners, this looks very much the same. We can also change the dimensions here. So this banner is basically landscape. Let's try changing this to portrait. So I will edit this here and let's select portrait over here. We can also generate multiple images. Let's make it 2 and let's try running this again. By the way, you are also charged for using this playground. Make sure that you have some balance added. Let's see the images now. This looks very much similar to the kind of design aesthetic that we wanted. Let's look at the second image as well. I like the second image more and this fits well with the product. So even the text is exactly the same. So good job on this. So we would be using this prompt within our product now. So what I will do is I will just capture this prompt from here, and we can configure this prompt for every customer that we have. Since this is an MVP, that's why we will hard code the prompt for generating the images in the backend, and we will keep on changing it for every customer. We want to keep things simple in the MVP. We don't want to make it complex. Down the line, we can also introduce a new flow where a person can generate these customized prompts for themselves, and they will keep on updating in the background. Right now, we will keep it simple and fast because we are creating an MVP. Now let's jump to the next part, that is gathering all the required documentation. For getting the documentation, just click on the docs tab here. And when I open this, I will see all the options for using all these APIs on the left. You would be needing the images API. So let's come on the images and vision page, and let's copy this entire page from here. Let's add this documentation over here. Another page that we would be needing is this image generation page under the specialized models. So this page basically captures all the information on how to use this API. So let's copy this page as well. Let's add this in the documentation. That is all for us right now for the documentation. The last step is getting the file structure from our project. For this, we would have to set up a new Next.js project within Windsurf and then capture it from there. If you are using Windsurf for the first time, this is the screen that you would land on once you log in into Windsurf. Now, if you look on the right, there's this bar, which is basically your way of interacting with your code. This is basically an AI interface. On the left, you will see this option to select the folder that you would want to create these files in. So I will click on open folder, and when I click over here, then I can select the folder I want to create this in. So this would be basically your root directory. I will select this folder called Cascade Projects, and I will open this. I keep all my new projects over here, and when I want to create a new project, I will just come up over here. So either what you can do, you can directly come on the terminal and you can put in the command to create the new app. Or what you can do is you can come on the chat on the right here and you can just mention, I want to create a new Next.js 14 project. And when you do that, it will generate a command for creating this. So it just created the command, which is npx create next app. I will just run this. And then there are a certain set of options that you have to select. So what I will do is I will click on open in terminal here. I will click Y here, and then it will select. Then you get some options that you have to select between. You want to use ESLint, yes. Tailwind CSS, yes. Source directory, yes. App router, yes. Turbo path, no. Import alias, no. And once you make all these selections, it takes around 20 to 30 seconds to set up a new project. And you will see on the left, it has created a new Next.js 14. And now that it has created this new app for us, I will just zoom in so that it's easier for you to look at this. And then I will go on this menu. I will select open folder, and then I will go to the root folder, and then I will just switch to the folder within my root directory. I will go on this and I will click open. Now I'm within the project itself. Now what I will do is I will come back on the terminal and I will ask it to run a command called tree command. This command scans through your entire code base and finds the right file structure. Run the tree command so that I can get the file structure of the entire repo and make sure to exclude the node modules. Node modules are basically the package manager files that are not required while you are getting a snapshot of the entire directory. So now it has generated the command for this. I will just click on accept and I will get the entire output. So I will copy this and I will go back on my document, and I will come on my document and I will paste the existing file structure over here. Now we have the entire prompt. So I will copy this entire document from the top to the bottom part. I will copy this entire thing and then I will go and use a reasoning model like O4 Mini. You can do this on ChatGPT's app, or in this case, I am using T3.chat, which is basically a interface for using all of these models. It does not make any difference. You can either use this or directly do this on ChatGPT app. Let's wait for the output. The model has generated the PRD for us. If I go through the PRD, then the first step is basically an overview of defining what the flow would look like. We can also tweak these things, but right now I will just copy this thing as it is and we can make these changes later during the flow. Then talking about the user flow of the app. At this point, make sure that you verify all the details on the PRD. Make sure that you understand the implementation, not the coding part, but how the logic looks like. This will help you down the line when you are creating the app, and make sure the PRD mentions all the details that you requested for. Sometimes model hallucinate and they don't mention all the details. You can also do a couple of retries, and once you are sure, only then go ahead with the next step. So I will copy this entire PRD from here. I will go back inside Windsurf and I will create a new file here. I will call it prd.md. These are basically the rules for creating the entire project. And then I will just start implementing this step by step. For implementing this, what I will simply do is I will come on the cascade window on the right. You can select any model over here from which, if you come on the right over here, you will see there are a bunch of models that are available for you to use. I usually use Gemini 2.5 Pro for coding since it works really well in most of the use cases. But you can also play around with Claude Sonnet 3.7 or other models like Claude Sonnet 3.5. So I will tag the PRD here and I will mention let's start executing this PRD, and I will mention the first step here. I will mention execute step 1. And another thing I will mention in my prompt is I want it to read the entire document. Read the entire file before making changes. Windsurf was designed in a way that it reduces the amount of words or tokens that it's sending to the model every time that you make a request. That's why it will cut short the entire PRD and just try to get the segments that are relevant. But that would defeat the purpose. That's why I'm specifically asking it to read the entire PRD and only then start making changes. Let's sing this. These models, sometimes it takes around 5 to 10 minutes to generate the entire code. So you can turn on this notification sound within Windsurf so it lets you know when the code is finished generating. So on this step, there is one file we would have to create manually, that is .env.local. This is a safety feature within Windsurf so that it does not handle your private keys, which is something like your personal password, but can lead to your project hacking if someone else gets it. Now I will create a file called .env.local in the main folder of my project. I will copy this entire code that I got into this file. Basically, these are for my API keys. We would be going to Supabase for generating all of these in a minute. The next step for us is to set up our Supabase. So let's go on these steps to see that what exactly needs to be done here. I will go back to prd.md. Also, apart from this, I will ask it to update the PRD based on the implementation we will mark the step at the. So now it has marked step 1 at that. Now we will be moving to step 2. Step 2 is also something that we would have to do manually. We would have to go to Supabase and set up a project. Over here, you will see that I'm already inside my dashboard. But if you are using this for the first time, then you start from a screen like this, where you would have to input your login details. So you would have to sign in or sign up. When you sign up, then you would have to just put in your email. You have to select a password. And when you do that, then you would have to create an organization. And once you create an organization, then you would land on this screen where you can create projects within your organization. I will click on this button called New Project here, and I will choose the organization that this project is going to be created in. On the free plan, you can create up to 2 projects. I will name the project as email cover generator, and I will type in my password here. So you can select any password over here, and for this region down here, you can select any region. This is basically where your servers would be located, but it does not make a lot of difference whichever you choose. Once you have initialized this, it would take around a minute to get started. Now the project is set up. I will go select the connect icon on the top, and then I will go within app frameworks and I will select Next.js because we are creating a Next.js app. Over here, I will see the .env file that I need. I will copy it from there and I will paste it within my project within the .env.local file, and I will paste this here. By the way, you can keep the name of the file either .env or .env.local. There isn't any difference in that. Now moving on to the next part. So for this, what I would be doing is I would be setting up the auth settings for this project. So I will go on left. I will select authentication here. And within this, I will check that what are the list of providers that we are using. So I will go select the sign in sign up menu here. Within this menu, I will see all the providers that are there. So I only wanted to use email, but you can add any other provider that you want to, Gmail or phone number or whichever you think is required. There might be a bit of additional setup here, but you can get it done. Then with that, the entire authentication setting seems to be fine. Now let's check the next step. The next step is setting up the storage buckets, creating the 2 storage buckets for saving our banners and our product images. So I will go on the left menu again. I will select storage here. And within this, I will create a new bucket. I will call it product image. Right now, I am not turning on the public bucket icon over here, but it's best if you create it as a public bucket. So turn that on if you are creating it. Same way, I will create a bucket for my banners as well. And I would also turn on the public bucket icon over here down the line. Now, coming on to the last part of the step. So for this, I have to run the SQL command. So let's copy this, and in a moment, I will show you how you can run this. So I will copy this from here, and then I will go on the SQL editor menu over here. And I will remove the first line from this and then run this. And when I run this, a new table is created within my database with all the required folders and everything else. So this is a benefit of using Supabase because you can just directly run this command that you got out of your PRD. With that, a step is complete. So I will just quickly mention over here the step is complete, mark it as done, and then we would be moving on to the next step here. The next step from here for us would be creating the Supabase edge function, which is the step 3 in the process. So it has started creating the edge function for us. Basically, Supabase edge functions are backend operations that we can set up on Supabase, and they keep on running over there. Now the next thing is that we would have to install another program for pushing all these changes to Supabase. This is called Docker. I will quickly go on their website and show you that how you can get the two. Just go on Docker Desktop's website and you can select the download plan based on uh, whichever software you are using. And the $0 plan works well for this use case. So you can just use that and download it for MacBook or Windows. And once you download it, then you can just directly run this. And when you run this, then it will start running these containers in the background that will directly connect with your Windsurf. You don't have to do anything over there. So this is running in the background. Now, if I go back on Windsurf and I ask it to push the changes to Supabase, then it can do it without any issues. If you are doing this for the first time, then you would also have to log in with your Supabase. So for that, you just have to go on Supabase's website. Windsurf will itself run this command, and then you have to just copy the code that you got from there and enter here. That way, your login would be done. and it would retrieve all the projects within your Supabase, and it will understand that within which product or within which project you want to create this new edge function. Over here, you just select the project that you want to create it within. I will select email cover generator here, and that's it. That's it. You just run this command, and your entire edge function would be uploaded on the respective Supabase folder. With this, we are 90% done with our Supabase configuration. There are some security changes that we will come down to later. Similarly, I will also run the step 4 of the process. I will just ask it to run the entire step, and then once it is done running the entire step, I will just ask it to maybe king this on the TRD basis that. The same would be the flow for step 5 as well. I will just keep on, doing the same thing, asking me to make all these changes and then updating our PRD basis that. And once we are done, then we would be coming to the next step of creating a couple of more hooks and updating our Supabase. So we are almost 80% there. Couple of changes, and now this is working. When I go on the platform, this is the home page now. You will see that I'm running this on the local server. Over here, I can sign in or sign up. Let's test out the sign up flow. We'll click on sign up. I will put in my email address. I will just generate a password for this and I will sign up. When I sign up, then I receive a confirmation link on my email. So I've received this email. I will click on confirm your email. This redirects me back to the home page. Over here, I would quickly sign in, and when I do, then I should be ideally redirected to the dashboard. Let's try refreshing this. Okay, I'm redirected to this page on refreshing. Now on the left, I see the option of uploading a image, and along with that, the JSON prompt for generating the image. On the right would be shown the banner that is generated. So this is good progress. Now let's build the rest of the parts as well. Let's start with the sixth step now. Sixth step is around creating the API routes for running a app. So I will just use the same prompt here. Apart from this, I will also mention that you go through the entire PRD, and after this step is done, then I will also ask it to update my PRD so that we have all the details that are required in the same document itself. And as same as before, let's start with the seventh step. Seventh step is around creating our backend functions in Supabase. So on Supabase, our entire backend runs. So once it creates all of it, we would have to also deploy this function similarly how we did it earlier using Docker. So make sure that Docker is running in your backend. And once this applies all of these changes, then I will also ask it to update the PRD with all the steps and all the details around the implementation. Once this is done, then the next step for us would be to make a couple of configuration changes on Supabase. Let's get to that in a minute. There are 3 changes that we would have to do. One is updating our OpenAI API key in edge functions. Second is adding row level security policies to database and adding row level security policies to the storage buckets. Let's start from the first thing. So for the first one, I will just go to my OpenAI dashboard, and then I will create a new API key, and then I will go on my Supabase edge functions. If I go within my project, and over here, if I come to the menu on the left, within edge functions, I will see this option called secret. Over here, I will put in the name of the key. For this, you would have to check your code once. You can just use cascade on the left here to check that what is the name. Just quickly check once, and then use the same variable name over here, and then just add the key that you just now generated. I will quickly add my key. Now it's added over here. Coming on to the next part of making RLS changes in our database. So this is a database table called banners. Over here, if we come on this SQL editor on the left, over here we can run SQL commands and we can make changes in our database through that. So over here, we have to provide access for anyone who has logged in into our app to make a change in the database. For that, I would be running this SQL command. You can just use this command. If I use this command, then I would have to change the name of my table over here. So over here, I will mention the name of the table. So our name of the table is banners. Similarly, I will replace this here as well. Then I will just click on run. And when I will run this query, this made the changes. I got the success message here. If I go back on my table and if I click on auth policy over here, individual user access is provided to the authenticated role, which is exactly the role level security we wanted to implement. Now coming on to the third step in the list. So we are through first step and the second step. Now we have to get to the third step. Hey, this is Nimish from the future. Not from the distant future, but a day after shooting the last shot. So I realized down the line that making these storage buckets public is a better solution here. So what we would be doing is we would be going back to our Supabase storage tab. Over here, I will choose both of these buckets. I will start with the first bucket and I will click on edit bucket here and I will make the bucket public. So all these links would only be available to the person who is editing the file. That's why there is no security risk of making these buckets public. That's why I will save it that way. And this wraps up our entire configuration with Supabase. With this, I will mark the third step as done as well. Now that we have made changes in our Supabase database, the entire product should be working as expected. Now let's try uploading one of the logos here. So I will upload this logo here. So image has been successfully uploaded. Then let's click on generate banners and let's wait for the output to come up. I see that there is an issue with the edge function. So what I will do is I will just copy this entire error from here. I will click on this copy button from here and let's go back to Windsurf and let's paste this here. I got this error while running our edge function for creating the banners. Thing I will do over here is I will go to Supabase and get the required logs from there. When I go within the edge function that I created and go within the logs, then I will see the error that came up. This would be a more descriptive error than the one that we got on the client side or basically a browser. I will copy this and I will go back and I will also paste this in the chat along with asking it to not jumping to the solution. So I will ask my AI to not jump to the solution directly, but explain what the error is and think about the solutions. And then we would be coming to implementation in the next step. The benefit of asking it to not jump on the solutions directly is that it thinks through the problem correctly and it analyzes all the angles. Now let's implement the solution that it suggested and try using a tool again. It is done making the changes, so let's try it out and run the code. Let's try running this again. So now the model seems to be working and we also got the response, although this is cropped on the edges. But this is a thing that we can easily change in the prompt itself. And with this, our product works very functionally. The only thing is that we would want to just improve the UI of this entire app and we would want to remove this section from here, build your email. Right now, we will just keep the generate banner builder here. And then a person, when they logs out, they would be redirected on the home page. So let's quickly do some UI enhancements. For doing this, what I will do is I will just go on 21st.dev and I will just pick up some components that goes well with the website and we will quickly do this. So for the hero section of the page, I will use this. I think this really looks nice. So I will just open this component, copy the prompt, and let's go and update our home page. So I will come over here. I will open up a new chat and I will mention let's update our homepage. And with this element, when someone clicks on the CTA, they would be redirected on the auth screen. So let's add this element. This usually works really well because when you copy any element from 21st.dev, you also copy details like what are different classes, what are different components that are being used. That's why it's very easy for app builders to replicate it. So with that, we would be making a couple of more UI enhancements, and then we would be wrapping up the entire app. And after making the UI of the page consistent, this is how the website looks like now. When I click on get started, I'm redirected on this sign in page. I can use my existing account here. And when I sign in, then I'm redirected on the banner builder. All of the design looks consistent now. We are using the same buttons and same font types everywhere. So this looks good. This is nice. I think the last step for us over here is to actually put this on a link and start distributing it. So let's say if you would want to make this a product and send the link to anyone, there is this only, then you have to just do one step and this will start working. So what to do is just go on GitHub. If you would have to create a new account if you haven't already. Just create a new repository over here. Give this a name. I would call this email banner generator, and I will create this repo here. And then I will copy the repository address from that. And I will come back on Windsurf and I will mention, let's push a repository to GitHub. I will also drop the GitHub link here. And then there would be a series of commands that it would be running. I just have to accept them. And one by one, when they run, the repository would be pushed on the GitHub account. Push now. So let's go on our GitHub. Let's refresh this. And now we have the repository here. Now the last step for you to deploy this on a link is just go on vercel.com. If you haven't created an account, you can create a new account here. Just click on add new site on the right, select project. And when you do that, then it will pull up all your new projects created within your GitHub repository. You will have to connect them once. And when you do that, then just click on import. And then you would have to add environment variables here. So for this, just go on your .env file and copy all the environment variables that we are using our OpenAI key directly in Supabase. So we won't have to copy that. We would just have to capture a Supabase environment variables and so let's get all of these variables and let's add them here. And once you do that, just click on deploy. This would take around a minute and then you will get a link where your website will be working live and anyone can play and look at. And now our website is deployed. If I just go on the site, I see a public URL. You can share this URL with anyone and they would be redirected on the website. When you go on get started, when you sign in, this would be entirely the same flow that we created earlier. So now let's try out the product as well to see if it's working how we wanted it to be. So let's import this image of hostage tape. Let's add this here. And then apart from this, we can also choose the aspect ratio now. So let's choose portrait over here and try generating the banner. And we see a banner generated on the right. And when I open this, this is actually in portrait mode. So this is exactly how we wanted it to be. All of this is working exactly how we wanted it to be. With this, we have built out this entire project. I hope you followed along and learned something new today. That's all for this one. Have a good one. Bye bye.